So, in the discourse around Armored Core 6, there was much ado, early on, about this image from the reveal trailer. An AC combing the frozen wastes of Rubicon 3 with, presumably, the Raven's belongings and loot strapped to its back. Add to this the first interviews, and in the summary of the game's Steam page, where it's touted that 6, quote, uses the knowledge gained from Software's recent action game development, and you could almost hear the collective asthmatic gasp of thousands of series veterans appalled at the notion that the developer might have metamorphosed their daring franchise into an Elden-like? No, they cried. Armored Core is mission-based and should always be. From Software quickly addressed this. Indeed, the game was still mission-based, but missions would be significantly longer, through environments orders of magnitude larger, and with more verticality than any Armored Core game has had previously, and the footage we've seen since then has proven this in spades. To supplement this, game director Masaru Yamamura and FromSoft producer Yasunori Ogura explained that garages and workshops are accessible mid-mission, much like campfires or sites of grace, to provide respite and the chance to rework the player's AC to meet new challenges as they come. But what was the thought in producing this sort of image for the reveal trailer? Why haven't we seen it anywhere else since? Save the game's splash page on Bandai Namco's website. It's piqued my curiosity. And consider it. What if Armored Core 6 was open world? Or its sequel? Or Armored Core 7? What would an open-world AC game look like? I have an idea of how that format could fit perfectly into the ethos of Armored Core. It's not in the way you might expect. In this video, I'll be touching on a few details of older Armored Core games and the tenets of their design. There won't be any spoilers, but I also will not be going to great depth to fill in missing context. For that, I point you to Vati Vegia's video, titled I Played 15 of From Software's Hardest Games, where he chronicles every single Armored Core title to this point. All of them. The absolute mad lad. If you're interested in the franchise, even tangentially, it's essential viewing, as far as I'm concerned. The man is a legend. A link to it will be in the pinned comment or description. Upon its release, I plan to stream Fires of Rubicon right here on YouTube. I hope I get herpes. So I hope I earn your interest enough to check back. I have new content planned going forward about Armored Core and myriad other games and non-gaming topics for your enjoyment. But for now, back to the topic at hand. There were many in the fandom and media adamant that Elden Ring was uniquely suited to an open-world structure, and that Armored Core simply wouldn't fit. The thing is, they make this assertion not fitting Armored Core into the open world, but rather the Elden Ring mold. If From Software made the game to mirror the design conventions they had employed previously, it's safe to say the game would be clunky. The player, out in the wilds, garages serving as campfires in between, felling enemies and bosses with no easy way to access the garage menu to rethink or retool their AC. I don't think anyone's going to argue that that would be a pleasant experience. But there is a modern classic whose structure fits the world of Armored Core to a T. Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain is unique among open-world titles in the way it weaves the functions of Diamond Dogs into its world traversal. At any given moment, after the opening act, Big Boss, the player, has complete freedom to traverse the game world and explore as they see fit. But the 1980s hologram Android smartphone in their pocket places missions, supplies, loadout changes, R&D, staffing, air superiority, vehicle deployments, and airlifts at the player's fingertips. Way more than a simple inventory or stats screen. It's a UEFI through which the player can micromanage every cog and piston of the war machine underpinning the operation. And it's omnipresent. On a whim, the player can request extraction from the region to be taken anywhere else in the game world or back home. To that end, Mother Base itself is an ever-changing hub where player progression, respite, world building, and story moments converge. It's at once a playground and an oasis among the waves from the oppressive heat, grit, blood, and stress of the operating theater. But how can this be adapted to Armored Core's style of play? A staple of the Armored Core mythos and the greater gameplay loop is the presence of an organizational entity that sponsors mercenaries like the player character. It's gone by many names: Raven's Nest, Nerve's Concord, Global Cortex, Collard, Signs, and Rubicon's Allmind. But the crux of it is that while playing their role as a narrative device, crucial to the overall plot, they are the player's lifeline. They guarantee operating clearance, sponsor you in secure missions with corporations, grant privileges to shop component catalogs, VR testing, and entry into the in-universe arena. Despite not being a physical place, this sounds a little like Mother Base, doesn't it? Traditionally, these resources have only been available in menus, outside of the operating theater. When you committed to a mission, you were likewise committed to your chosen build until you accomplished or failed that mission. We know now that 6 will feature mid-mission refits, so with that in mind, why couldn't FromSoft make an open-world sequel? The gameplay embargo lifted in the middle of my writing this, so let's use that for examples. You Halo jump through the planet's defenses, acquire your mercenary license, summarily assuming the identity of Raven, and your journey of working for every side of the Rubicon Independence War begins proper. You're inducted into Allmind and gain access to their services. Running low on munitions? Call a supply drop. Need recon on an area beyond the range of your radar? Call for a scan. Coming up on a tough encounter? Request a support helicopter or an ally AC. The player's mech is already outfitted with the communication subsystems to effectively play the role of an iDroid. These are just surface-level implementations. Integrating Allmind as an active game mechanic rather than set dressing for the menus could open up a slew of new options and allow way more design room for the developers. But there is a caveat to this Kojima-inspired design philosophy. It's entirely possible this approach might erode a core tenet of the game by devoting less time in the menus. Now, if you're new to the franchise, that may leave you scratching your head. The missions, the arena, pew pew, aren't those the bread and butter of Armored Core? Well, yes and no. A large portion of these games has always been the shop and assembly downtime. Minutely tuning your AC and looking at walls of numbers is the other core pillar, and assembly is a delicate act. You have to offset your AC's energy consumption with a suitable generator. You have to choose weaponry capable of dishing out sufficient pain and ensuring that the fire control system or FCS can handle those armaments and keep up with your adversaries. That your AC doesn't instantly overheat, you have to pick a decent radiator. And that all of that hardware doesn't encumber your legs. It's a lot of moving parts, no pun intended. And finding the right balance is half the challenge and half the fun. So I'll concede that if the game were to adopt an open world format, the whole might suffer. I don't necessarily think Armored Core would be better open world. I'm just saying it's an avenue FromSoft could explore in future titles. They certainly have the pedigree and the chops to pull it off. I'm no spoiled gamer. I'm over the moon that we're getting a new AC game at all, much less one that holds this much promise. By all signs, it's everything I could have hoped for. It absolutely retains the spirit of the first 3 generations, much of the speed of the 4th generation, and the tactics of the 5th. And by God, the designs could have been ripped right out of the 2nd or 3rd generations, which are the ones I grew up on. What a time to be alive. I couldn't be happier with what we're getting. But what do you think? Could this work? What elements did I miss? I know I missed something. Am I just a moron?
I'm retarded?
Let me know your thoughts. Also, I'd appreciate your appraisal of my work on this video. I'm new to the content creator scene, so I would appreciate your feedback. Thanks for watching.